But I stopped business, I had stopped everything, but it was the right thing to do for me.
Yes.
It's what I needed to do. I needed to burn it all down so that I can build it back up completely to how I wanted it. It was in that space where I did feel like rock bottom. I did feel like, what's going on? The answer was, stay here. Disconnect from it all. Unplug from it all.
The kind that doesn't make sense. I mean, I'm very blessed to say that I've got a team of like 17 people, and it's before I've even touched it. It's like, thank you, God, give it to where it needs to go so that they can keep, building the kingdom. Sometimes have absolutely no idea how things are going to arrive. And I'm talking like down to the hour, having absolutely no idea. And yet equally having excitement, seeing how God is going to figure this one out this time.
My grandfather passing away when he was 55 to cancer, and me having a deep connection with him, and he visited me and was like, hey, do you want to know why I used to always randomly give you $5 here, $10 here, just randomly give you money? He was like, to show you that you are already worthy, just as you are, to receive whatever you desire. You receive money, you don't have to do anything to receive it.
Dusah Wiseman is an interdisciplinary artist and wellness guide who's trained with Indigenous elders and leading voices in the healing arts. Devotion runs through everything she touches. Her medicine bag includes yoga, pranayama, qigong, meditation, herbalism, music, and somatic-based practices. Dusah's work is about inner alchemy, merging ancient wisdom, elemental magic, and creative expression to awaken the dormant power within our shadows. But here's the question that brought her to the spiritual debate. When did we start sacrificing integrity for 10, 20, 50K months? Where the appearance and the validation is more important than the body of work? When healing is on camera, rituals are content, and enlightenment is packaged as an ayahuasca retreat, are we still worshiping the vine or the algorithm? This debate digs its heels into how authenticity and artistry can exist in a world where even awakening has PR. Has spirituality become Hollywood? Let's find out. Welcome to the Spiritual Debate Podcast, Dusah Wiseman.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor. I'm truly, truly grateful.
How did it feel to hear your bio back to you? Does that feel like, yeah, that's my familiar self right now? That all tracks?
It truly did. I had to close my eyes a couple of times there to just really feel into the words and to honor that, because I think sometimes we could be like, oh, not too egoic, don't be humble and things like that. But at the same time, you have to honor and acknowledge who you are and where you've been. And hearing that reflected back felt like this reclamation of, yes, that's exactly it for the time being, because we get to reinvent ourselves as oftentimes as we like. So,
well, what I love about your intro is that it reflects the multidimensionality of you. You weren't like, I'm an author, or I like music, or I've done somatic-based practices. It's everything combined into the multidimensionality of your expression. I want to start here because I think this is an important segue to where we're going to go. So I met you through my husband, Hayden. He had an impulse, a feeling that you were the right person for me. And then I had a very brief call with you, and it literally felt like I was meeting a soulmate in this lifetime. I couldn't explain it. And for those of you who are listening, I'm already wanting to cry. I can't even explain how connected I feel to Dusah's spirit, to her essence, to her ethos, to her integrity. And the truth is, I've only really heard your 3 savage beliefs and had a 15-minute call with you. And that just, to me, carries so much weight and gravity to where we may go here today. And so that's the knowledge I have about Dusah Wiseman, and that you took a social media break.
yes.
I want to start there. I want to understand what led you to the chrysalis of hibernation. Where were you in your journey then that led you to take time off? And what did time off mean for you?
Yeah. So thank you for honoring that. And I feel the deep resonance as always. And, Hayden plays a role in this story too. I'm super grateful for Hayden. And so I think what was the catalyst for this? This was not something that was planned, but it was this sort of coming home to a deeper connection with Source and my divine mission, deeper than I had ever gone before. And the catalyst for that was me being hospitalized for almost 3 weeks. And that was a pretty intense initiation because here I was going through the motions. I was showing up online. My account was growing. And at the same time, I'm having all of this pain underneath the surface.
Oh,
And they,
wow.
they say things like, show up. How will people trust you? And it's like, okay, but I'm the type of person when I'm going through something, I like to dive all the way in. I like to feel into it. And I know this was emotional. This stemmed a lot from the relationship that I was in. And I had to have like 3 different incisions on my belly. And from that, all of this rage came to the surface.
Oh.
All of this rage that I thought that I dealt with from issues that I was having in that relationship came back to the surface. And in that moment, I could no longer do yoga. I could no longer do qigong. I couldn't do these practices that held me because I'm looking like I'm 9 months pregnant. My entire lower half is swollen. And I'm not physically looking in the mirror, not knowing who I am.
Wow.
And also mentally not feeling like I am who I am. And so on that hospital bed, I just had this biggest vision. I was being constantly woken up with these fever sweats and these dreams and these visions, some bad, some beautiful, but like this vision of where I am to go next. And I was shown that I was only playing a very small portion of that in how I was showing up in the space. And so Hayden, bless his heart, sent me this energetic healing device as well to help me through that experience.
He did?
Yes.
Wow.
It was so beautiful, such a beautiful gift. And I just felt held and supported by the people who I was really meant to be with. And so also that was around the same time of the North nodes shifting collectively for everyone to Aries. And my native North node is in Aries. So there was this deep calling to chart my territory, to follow my purpose, to not let anything get in the way of that, not even myself. And so, that was a 6-year relationship that I had to leave. And I still have immense amount of love for him. And that's the hardest thing. One of the hardest things you'll ever have to do is leave someone or something you love for the sake of finally loving yourself the way you're supposed to be loved. And I had to make that choice. And, I felt I didn't want to let anyone down, not his family, my children, his children. Like, I didn't want to let anyone down, but I had to choose me. And so part of that at the same time, this is the contrast, right? We have these tower moments happening, and then at the same time, something amazing is happening. So then the book deal came. And
all around the same time.
Yes, all around the same time.
Come on. Too good.
And so I was going back and forth of whether or not to even accept it, because I was like, I don't know if I'm ready, all these other things happening. But it was just angelic timing. And at the same time of me saying like, okay, I have to leave. I have to leave this relationship. Not having a safety net, not knowing where I was going, not having any money saved, not having anything figured out, but knowing that this was the moment that I had to either bet it all on myself, that I had to trust the things that I speak about, how source is always with you, your divine counsel is always with you. Like, I had to really lean into that and trust that. Like, okay, are you going to really practice what you preach all the way down to the very bottom? And so I took that leap.
Wow.
And that's often the space that many are afraid to venture into, because you don't see the path. You don't see how it's going to work out. You see the vision, sometimes a little glimmer, not even the full picture. And you have to follow that compass, but that's the compass that never steers you astray. And so, yeah, I took that leap, and next thing you know, I'm relocating, I'm moving, and yeah, I don't even know how, like, I didn't mean to go that far deeply into it, to venture away from that. But, and so, me healing from the breakup, me feeling like, am I making the right decision? Am I crazy? Like, I don't know that I questioned so much if my divine counsel was going to show up. I knew they would, but I was wondering how much of the bottom do you want me to go to? When are you going to, let me know? But I had to have that faith, and I blessed my best friend's heart. I went to stay with my best friend and just felt like a wounded puppy. Like, I had to stop everything as I knew it, have business. And it was, it was going really well for me, but I stopped the business. I had stopped everything. And that's probably not the smartest thing to do in terms of what coaches will tell you, but it was the right thing to do for me.
Yes.
It's what I needed to do. I needed to burn it all down so that I can build it back up completely to how I want it. And maybe that's the Aries stellium that I have that's like, no, we got to burn it all down. But then I also have all these planets in, my rising, my sun, and my Mercury's in Taurus. So the Taurus and the Aries are going at it. Taurus was like, we need to plan. Aries was like, no, we got to go. And so Aries won. I had to go. And it was in that space where I did feel like rock bottom. I did feel like, what's going on? And the answer was, stay here, be here, disconnect from it all, unplug from it all. Like, disconnect from the noise, disconnect from just any outside stimulus, any outside inspiration, all of it. You don't need the inspiration. Disconnect from it all.
Wow.
Connect back to you, connect back to source, connect back to the practices that maybe you were too busy to do because you had this going on. Connect back to it all. Disconnect and reconnect was the answer that I received. And so what I thought was only going to be maybe a couple of weeks, a couple of months break from social media ended up being an entire year, which I can't even fathom. And it really felt like this birth because, you know, even when you are giving birth, there's the inception, the conception part, there's the full growing, and it felt like I was giving birth to myself again. And so the break happened from this deep listening to source of maybe wasn't, you know, outside looking in from others because it was the smart thing for me to do. Yeah. But others might have been, oh, she's crazy. Like, what are you doing? Like, you have this momentum. Like, what are you doing? But it's what I had to do. And that's the space that when you listen to source without questioning, even if it doesn't make sense, that's when the true blessings come to you.
Yes. I mean, I couldn't agree more with everything that you've just said. And I wonder in this moment what I would be like if I was a fly on the wall in Dusah Wiseman's first 3 months of untangling from social media. Can I be a fly on the wall for a moment? And can you kind of walk me through what that process is? Because I know that there are certain attachments I have to certain things that I have been working at for a very long time. And as of this moment, there is no voice of God that says, pull back on the creations. However, if I did, I wonder if I could go there. So talk me through how you got to the bottom.
Yeah. So, as I said, I knew I had to write this book, which that was an initiation in itself. Like, I feel like I had to break that cycle of staying in something that I knew was preventing me from going where I'm headed next. Who knows if that's the end forever, but, you know, that's something that had to be done. And in that space, it looked almost routine-like because, like, initially, there was a lot of sleep involved. There was a lot of rest. There was a lot of, oh my gosh, I just need to disconnect. There was a lot of, even my son, he loves to cook. He's cooking for me. My best friend's cooking for me. And I'm just like, like, what is this? And just feeling all of the feels, feeling it all to make sure that I don't have to repeat that. But then it also looked like me receiving divine messages from even boiling water. I could boil water and there's this message coming to me. I could be outside and like the moment I turned down the noise, the voice of source, of God, of Mother Nature, all of it just turned up. And volume-wise, it wasn't loud, but the way I felt it was extremely loud. And so I turned down all of that, and it looked like me scribing. I literally wrote my book in a journal. Wow. Communing with it's funny because my desk was where my snake was. I even brought my snake along for the journey. So I'm looking at his cage and I'm like writing and I'm scribing. And also the time during when we had those floods in North Carolina and South Carolina. So there was also a time where we were without electricity for almost a month. Like, because South Carolina was not expecting that. And so we would like go to the co-working space to get to to shower, to get to the computer. Even a lot of stores and restaurants were shut down. It felt like some apocalyptic stuff going on. So you asked to be a fly on the wall. So here it is. I didn't know I was going to go that deep, but there was a lot of, you know, in that moment. And mind you, I'm coming from a home that outside looking in, it looks perfect. It's $1 million home. It's like, oh my gosh, she has her business. She has this partner. They look like the male and female version of each other. And then to go to this, which I'm super grateful for, but it was just a stark contrast. And now, you know, we have these issues with the lights being off and things like that. But, you know, something just kept telling me, like, to keep going. Keep going. You got this. Like, disconnect. No, unplug from it all. Don't look at what anyone else is doing. Don't look at what anyone else is saying. You don't need inspiration. You don't need, because like we want to make sure that the voice that's coming through you for this book, especially, it's all you. It's all source. It's all this channel. There's nothing else to flood that. And so, you know, I don't think we realize how often we're on social media. So initially I had to set like, and I'm not one of those people who are on it incredibly a lot before the break, but I didn't even realize how much I was still on it. And so like you can set this alarm, this like notification if you have an iPhone, to set yourself a time limit of how much you're supposed to be on social media. And if you know, surpass that, then you get kicked out. You have to enter your password. There was a time where I kept just entering my password, but that's
Me
the
too.
moment, right?
Me too. Yeah.
That's the moment where, you know, like neuroplasticity, we get to rewire that. If there's a split second that happens to where you can say, okay, I can go ahead and enter my password again, or I can hijack that and say, okay, no, enough's enough. And I kept doing it consistently to where eventually I was no longer going on social media at all.
Wow. And felt complete.
It did. It felt complete. It felt like I was in complete obedience and devotion to what the mission was being asked of me. So there was no room for me to complain or to feel. There was no FOMO. There was no fear of missing out anything. And the thing about it is that the right people come closer, and the people who weren't meant to be in your space, they sort of dissipate when you disconnect, because it's like we live in a time where people feel as though if it's not on social media, if it's not online, then it's not happening. But I was having, after that, because then, you know, the things, I started to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I ended up moving to Mexico. All these beautiful things happened out of that brief moment of feeling like everything was lost. But to get there, you have to study the course. You have to keep the faith. You have to not be afraid to do something that goes against the grain of what people are expecting or are doing. And so I don't think I even thought twice about whether or not it would make me feel complete. I was just like, this has to be done. And I did it.
I'm curious because before we started the episode, you talked about how you've got lots of Taurus in your chart, in the personal side, and then you've got an Aries stellium as well. And you said you felt that pull to go, and you did it. But I wonder, was the deepest fear, because you also mentioned financially being like, I don't have, you know, when I left my partner, I didn't have a financial safety net. Like, were those deeper fears around like finances, financial flow, were those things present in your life at the time that you unplugged from social media?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing too, it's that with that, like the more I made, the more I earned from whatever offers that I had.
Yeah.
You know, those were big boy bills that we had over there. So like I would contribute to here, contribute to there. And I just, you know, growing up in my upbringing, growing up in poverty, I was never taught about, you know, money management or even having good credit. I went to college. I was an art school dropout, but I went to college and I found out that you can get credit cards. And I was like, ooh, and I just got all these credit cards. I would do these move-in specials for apartments because they were like $99 move in. And then I be like, okay, the rent is due. I don't have that money. I just jumped to another $99 special before it all caught up to me. And I'm like, oh crap, now I have bad credit. They're no longer approving me for this. And it might sound, you know, that was, you know, I was young and that's years ago. Now we have like these 18-year-olds who are becoming millionaires because like it's a different time frame. Yeah. But I was not taught that. And so, but in that space though, I learned the deepest lessons about money, about management. And I just, again, in this space, when you're disconnecting and you're following source beyond your reasonable doubt, I received the message to, okay, focus on your credit, get your credit repaired, do this, do that. Instead of taking this money and putting it in whatever, put it towards your credit. And so now I can, for the first time, say I have good credit now. And things were working. And it's like I could have launched a course. I could have launched anything, a retreat or something like that, and been pouring from, I can't pour from an empty cup. I can't not have integrity. So I could not do those things, you know? I could not show up in that way. But, you know, someone else looking in might have been like, you could have done this, you could have done that. But no, I had to like erase it all. I had to disconnect from it all. So there was that fear. But I really feel like, you know, a part of stepping beyond what you think is possible, a part of stepping into your divine purpose, your divine mission, is to have that leap of faith, is to jump before the net appears, is to like, you know, not have to have all the answers figured out. Yeah. And when you can do that, I started receiving surprise checks in the mail for like $5,000 here, different things like that, to where I was completely, and still am, completely provided for without having to do those things that were making me money. So it's like, yeah, it might feel fearful, but when you go this path, then that's when you get to taste divine prosperity, the kind that doesn't make sense.
The kind that doesn't make sense. I mean, I know exactly what you're speaking of. It's something that I'm very blessed to say that my company does well. And everything for me at this stage of where I feel like God is bringing me is about stewarding it and helping other people who can help me to build the village, to build everything. And so it's really oftentimes this big ecosystem now. You know, I've got a team of like 17 people, and it's before I've even touched it. It's like, thank you, God, give it to where it needs to go so that they can keep, you know, building the kingdom. And I sometimes have absolutely no idea how things are going to arrive. And I'm talking like down to the hour. Having absolutely no idea, and yet equally having excitement, seeing how God is going to figure this one out this time. You know, there's
Show me
this
how good
feeling.
it gets.
Yeah, it's like, well, this is going to be really fun to see how this surge comes forward. I have absolutely no bloody idea. So let's just see how this goes. And I find that inside of the spiritual spaces, there is more talk about money.
Let's talk about it.
There is more talk about money. And I'll be the first to admit, 3 years ago, I was that person making 100K months, building a 7-figure business before my 28th birthday, trying to help healers. Some healers didn't want to be helped, but trying to help healers make money. God, I wouldn't recommend anybody do that. It is that was very hard work to do, trying to help healers make money when there is so much conditioning for healers about prosperity, and so many that I was working with just did not have a freaking connection to God.
Yeah.
How do you tell someone to have faith if they have nothing that they're having faith in? They would say they did. I trust the universe, but it was all fake, right? They would say, I know that I can generate 10K months, but then their behaviors behind the scenes were completely self-harming. And so I love this part of the bio where you talked about how there's more aim towards 10, 20, 50K months. Personally, I want to know where that has shown up in your life and where this belief came from. Let's start there.
I think it's something that I just started to notice. And I'm so glad you brought this up, because there's 2 different nuances to this, right? Part of the reason why people do that, even like down to affirmations. Oh, I think I feel this. But if you don't have any emotion behind it, if you don't really feel it in your body, it means nothing. Yep. I am worthy of $100,000. I'm worthy of $1 million. If you don't really, you know, like feel that and do the things that are in alignment with that belief, then it means absolutely nothing. But the thing about it is, and I'm not saying that the entire spiritual space is this way, but then there are coaches who sell that, who sell, hey, you can get 10K, here you can get 20K, here you can get 100K, whatever it may be, because they are speaking to what a lot of people are motivated by, which is money. Everyone, that's just the world that we live in right now, to where money is the construct. It is the thing that, you know, everyone wants, everyone needs. Like, what's your life without it? And so it has shown up. I've seen those spaces, and I feel like, you know, not enough is being talked about doing the work to be a steward of that. What happens when you receive your first 10K? What happens when you receive your first 20K? And all these different things. People are just focused on the superficial aspect of it, but let's go deeper. Are we making sure these people are being better stewards of money? Are we making sure that they are deeply connected to their, you know, showing them the practices they can do to connect with their spirit team so that they are being divinely guided and divinely led? But it's more so people are just sharing this information of how to do this, how to do that. And I'm seeing people, just from observation, not judgment, that will start off, you know, speaking about, okay, this is how you can rewire your brain, or this yoga practice will help with XYZ. And then they kind of make the shift into business. And then next thing you know, because this is a very fine, delicate dance, next thing you know, it goes from having these ceremonial spaces to now it's only about money. To now it's only, but you can't remove God. You can't remove source from money, from abundance. It's all connected. It's deeply connected. And the moment you do that, now you're venturing into egoic territory. Now you're venturing into not being as heart-centered, because all you're thinking about is the next marketing plan, the next marketing idea that's going to bring in more people. But are you really creating this change on a deep cellular level? And so I feel like we need to have spaces where we hold these. I mean, think about it. The spiritual space has become an industry. And when you think about industry, the spiritual space only mimics what's happening in real life, because we're all spiritual, right? We're all connected. So what you see in different avenues, different industries, you'll see that reflected back in spirituality. Think about fashion. And so there was a time where we wore like organic cotton. We made our own clothes. We did all these things. We hand washed our clothes. But then as more and more it came into the light, There started being fast fashion, where there were factories being built, where there were children who were, doing this work, and then they're putting it out. But the quality of material that you get, the clothes that you get, are not nearly great quality. They're horrible quality, But then people are feeding that machine. But then you look at slow fashion, where it's like, okay, this is all organic. You're thrifting, you're buying linen, you're buying organic cotton. It changes your vibration. And so change that, put that perspective back into the spiritual spaces, right? We have those sort of slow fashion and fast fashion thought leaders, spiritual leaders, where they're serving you this dish here. You can get this quick money. You can make 10K quickly. You can make 100K quickly. And they're giving you this one-size-fits-all approach when it's not that way. We can take inspiration from these people, but ultimately it's up to you to figure out that path and divine connection. And then you have like the slow fashion. The slow fashion, and those are the thought leaders who bring you back to your power, who bring you back to your purpose, who bring you back to knowing that you are the healer, that you have all the answers, that you can do this, that they're not trying to colonize these spiritual practices. They're guiding you, and they're sitting at the feet of elders. They're introducing you to the elders, and, and I think, that's just the nature of it, since spirituality has become an industry, which I think is great because now it gets to spread to more places. Yeah. Like I have family members who are still in the hood, but I get to share different practices that I know with my little brother, and then he gets to take it to people who I may not reach, Yeah. And so it's good that it's becoming more far spread, I guess you can say. But at the same time, we have to be conscious of the fact of slow fashion versus fast fashion.
Yes, I see that now that you've mentioned about how people maybe started being a facilitator and really feeling called to group retreat spaces. And the next thing you know, they're like, here's how you can sell out your retreats. And it sometimes it is very, very, very quick how that shift can happen. I felt actually in the beginning of my business from the start, I wanted to help healers scale their businesses, being very, very practical. But then it got to the point where, exactly like you're sharing, it just felt like I can only talk about making money because that's the only thing people want to buy. It felt like people only wanted to buy when I was talking about, here's how you can scale to 10K, instead of, here's how you can rewire your system to be able to hold 10K. Because it's one thing to make money and spend money. It's a whole other thing to hold it, steward it, circulate it, expand it, invest it. And I honestly feel like we are, for lack of a better explanation, completely tone deaf about that inside of what I have noticed in a lot of the spiritual community, which goes to the same thing as putting this in the context of Hollywood. I don't care what I got to do to get to the fame. I just want my name on the star. I just want to get a Grammy. I just want that thing. Instead of, okay, but like you have to work really hard, especially to not sell your soul.
Right.
And at some point, you're going to get to a certain threshold of visibility or success or momentum where that choice will probably feel really calling and enticing to you. And so good luck with that. And then most people end up selling their soul. I see the same energy happening in spirituality where maybe it started whole and then it just go as far to say ascension.
Oof.
It's like we're giving fast food ascension. I can give you this DNA upgrade. I can give you this Kundalini activation. I come to my retreat and have an ayahuasca journey. I had this amazing experience. Like we have forgotten that God is the long haul. And the body of work and the obedience and the depth and the marathon. And we've turned ascension and money and spirituality into a sprint.
Oof, you said so much that I really pray that everything that I wanted to come through comes through, because I was just like in my head going, yes, yes, yes. But okay, so one thing I want to touch on too is that it's not at all saying that just having this desire to earn more, it's placed on you because that's the divine wanting to experience itself through you. You were meant to have what you desire, So it's not that having that as a focus is wrong. That's not the case. Because I think that's the other issue, is that there are not enough heart-centered beings who are opening themselves to the proper way of aligning and 100%. Making more abundance and holding it and, sharing it and let it flow and circulate. There's not enough because it's like this starving artist or starving spiritualist mentality.
Yep.
And even this, okay, so the times are shifting and changing to where back in the day, sure, there were monks, there were gurus, there were all these different people who were like denouncing all of this, like denouncing the money, denouncing this. But how things are set up right now, we really can't denounce money. What are you going to do? That's just the way things are set up. But it doesn't mean you have to get it the same way that these people who are used to, when the masculine energy is too much at the forefront and the divine feminine or the goddess aspect is not being revered or is not being brought up into a balance alongside it, then we get the things that are happening where people are like money hungry. They're like, how can I speak to someone's pain points and sell this or sell that? And, or, you know, how can I, here's another big thing. You're seeing spiritual teachers who will go on a weekend or a 2-week long journey and all of a sudden they're a shaman. There are, and this is no shade, I'm just having to speak on this because it's very prevalent. And I think as more and more people are starting to realize these, who come to these spaces, they need to have the discernment to be able to discern between what is a real shaman, what is not. What is a real spiritual healer, what is not. You know, and it's not about what you look like. It's not about the aesthetics at all. And so the more that we can have that discernment and differentiate, then the better. But so it's a good thing. We need more heart-centered beings learning how to be in alignment, opening themselves up to abundance. That's not the issue. When we remove God from that, when we remove source from that, when we remove our purpose from that, that's when it becomes an issue. And I feel like, okay, yes, we need to learn more about that. But then you are exactly right. There will come a point in time where it feels as though you see what's popular. You see what's going viral. You see all these different ways and avenues of making money. Are you going to have that integrity still? Are you going to hold on to those beliefs that you have? Because there was even a moment in time where as I was growing, I was the naive little girl in me who just always wanted friends, who's always wanted community. There were different people coming from different angles. And I thought, okay, all of them must be, you know, divine. It must be on this path of ascension. And bless them, because they all have their own journey, but not all of them had pure intentions. Some of them really are fixated on the numbers, because think about it, the spiritual space becoming Hollywood means there are people who otherwise may not have gotten a chance, may not have been seen. And the spiritual space is a lot more lenient. Like, you can have a song that's like, if you just mention chakra, they're like, oh my God, it's a hit, you know? So they're a lot more lenient, right? So there are people who maybe wouldn't have had a big break in Hollywood who are knowing how to market themselves. They know how to say the thing. They know how to like speak to the camera. And I think the difference between a person who is heart-centered, who has a true gift, who has a true talent, but is maybe not showing up, is that they're lacking the audacity that people have who don't have that. They have the audacity to show up and to show this. And I think what's happening now is that there's a call. There's a call for more heart-centered beings, for more of those people who are deeply rooted to nature, who are deeply rooted to source, who are deeply craving for a shift, who are not even by choice, but by design, are helping to co-create this heaven on earth. We need more of them to rise up. We need more of them to show up, to have the audacity to speak their truth and to show what it looks like to be obedient. And that word is a little tingy, you know, but to be in devotion is, I feel, a better word. Be in devotion to your purpose. We need more of that coming to the forefront, because there is another way to receive divine prosperity that doesn't have to look like what's viral, what's popular, what's, you know, you don't have to sell your soul to reach that. And once you make it over that threshold, then that's when you get to see, oh, wow, this level of alignment, this level of prosperity is beyond what was trying to be sold to me. It's far beyond that.
Hey there, it's me, V. So, as you can imagine, this is my first podcast. And so I'm learning all of these new ropes. And did you know how important ratings were? I didn't. I had absolutely no idea. And I'm so thankful for the support of my team for reminding me of how important having your ratings, your honest reflection of the podcast, how much that benefits us. So, I'm that annoying person in the middle of everyone else's episodes that I fast forward that hopefully you're listening to right now. And if you've got 30 seconds, it would mean the absolute world to us if you could take a moment and just rate this podcast, give it a thumbs up, share it with your bestie that you want to go head to head with, so we can continue to spread this message, debate about the truth, find what the truth is, and have the kinds of conversations that truly help us awaken in integrity. All right, back to the episode. Yes, I also see, I wonder if you've seen this as well, that with that masculine that is imbalanced, and the feminine goddess is an even energetically. I've also seen ease, pleasure being sold. And sure, they're generating abundance because the devil loves ease and pleasure. Darkness loves to use the seduction of, I made this so easy. I made this so easy, you can do it too. I made it so fast, so fun, so playful, you can do it too. Instead of, but there's so much obedience and like coherence and consistency that is equally required to bring that into form. I also kind of see that as well, where, bless people who are attracting financial abundance and ease. And also sometimes that same sort of energy we can pedestal. I want to create from that energy. And then people don't attract because they've got all these cycles that they need to break in their energy. Or there's not the belief that they can attract an ease. Or when they do it have an ease, they can't sustain it. So I also kind of see that like imbalance with the feminine inside of the spiritual space as well. And I'm curious, is that something that you've seen as well? Where do you suppose the balance is between maintaining organic connection to our design while also creating as spiritual beings in this time of ascension?
That's a very beautiful observation to bring into this point of view, because that tends to be what happens. And that's a way of how things balance themselves out. You think about a pendulum, they sway. The higher they sway to one side, they sway equally to the other side. And it goes, back and forth like so. So we're seeing that, but I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a leveling out where people are going to realize, we can't revere the masculine too much. We can't revere the divine feminine too much. We have to why do we separate them? They don't have to be separated. And so if you look at the trends, and I would say trends lightly, but if you look at what's happening, we had this moment right before COVID where there was a surge of the information-based, the knowledge-based careers, where everyone was like, wow, you can make money by sharing your gifts. Yes. You can make money. At the same time, people were having more awakenings. If you look back, there seems to be like these different years where certain people were having awakenings. 2012, 2013, 2015, 2019. These are like specific moments where people were having awakenings. And that was also the time where people are realizing, wow, you can make money by sharing what you know, or, packaging up your gifts. And so now I feel that there's too much of that now, but there's going to be a balancing of that once again. And I feel like we can bring that into balance and to make sure that we're connected by unplugging, by disconnecting. If the machine wants you to show up 7 days a week, post 3 times a day, do the opposite of that. Because we get to either feed the machine or we get to usher in our own way. So we have this clash of so much information spewing left and right. If we can just come back into that space of that inner knowing of our own inner truth, and to do things not in accordance to what society tells you to, not in accordance to what you see that because others may be successful from their method of what they're doing, but to come back into this space where you're like, okay, I'm going to chart my own way. I'm going to do things differently. I'm going to go this way where they say everyone go here. I'm not going to follow that sheep. I'm going to break the cycle, because when that masculine is overly in the forefront, we see things we'll see these spiritual teachers who are like, yes, come to my ayahuasca retreat, or I've done ayahuasca 37 times. Did it make you a better person? I don't care how much ayahuasca you've taken. I don't care how much DMT. I don't care how much bufo. I don't care how much any plant medicine, whether it's mushrooms that you've taken. Did it make you a better person? It's medicine for a reason. Come there when there is an issue that you need to dissolve, when there's something that you need to bring to the forefront. But people aren't being properly diagnosed. They're just showing up for that. And it's becoming like a roller coaster ride. You jump on it and you're like, wow, again, wow, more. What's the next one? What's the next ride? But can we come back to this space to where some of the most miraculous experiences I've had, especially in meditative spaces, have been with people where I'm completely sober, with gurus, enlightened. Every single enlightened being I've been around, they've never even tried plant medicine. But this is being sold to you as this is the way. Come to this retreat and you will be. I'm not saying that all retreats are bad, because I love them. But show me the retreat that shifts you, that changes you. and you're completely sober.
Yes.
Then I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I'm not impressed if you can go to this retreat and there's ayahuasca. And this is another big thing that I want to speak about, because we're speaking about the masculine or the divine feminine being too much into balance. I mean, too much revered. So when the masculine is like that, we have this energy where people are just ravaging through these different plant medicines. I was one time in Costa Rica, in this DMT forest, and I heard her speaking so loudly to me. She's like, you have to help me. They're treating me like a cash crop. They're not holding me with high reverence. And this is not the way it was intended. And I watched this very powerful documentary recently. It was only 20 minutes. Please help me remember what this was called. Ayahuasca or something like that. We have to find it, and please put it in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Because this is a very, very important message. But there are these people, and I think they were in a jungle in Peru, who were speaking about how it's harming their area because of the overharvesting of ayahuasca, because of this need to drive this industry. It's harming what the initial intention was. This is their way of life.
Wow.
This is truly how they were designed to live, how they were designed to connect to their forest. But here are these people coming and grabbing and destroying and tearing down these different sacred sites, and we have to give back reverence to that. Wow. But when the masculine is too overactive, we don't care. We're like, hey, come to my ayahuasca retreat. Hey, come to this plant medicine ceremony. Hey, I did this 2-long retreat, and now I'm ordained whatever.
Yep.
What happened to us revering these practices as sacred?
Yes.
Instead of trying to colonize them and trying to be like, okay, now you can come to the ceremony with me now. Why not bring people to that elder?
Yes.
Why not bring people to where if they even need it?
Yes.
Because it's not even a requirement. And I'm sorry, I feel like I kind of took us on,
No,
I got really passionate
so
about that. I
good.
kind of took us down another avenue, but.
I've never done ayahuasca. And I feel like there's a reason for that. I don't believe God ever wanted me to be called, because my mission personally is about sovereignty, being able to be in my own energetic integrity, connection, purity, to be able to hear, like you use the word divine counsel, like to be able to hear my team of spirit clear, like ding, as clear as crystal clear can be, and have a complete connection as much as one can possibly be with who my divine creator is. Now, that's not to say with medicine that doesn't happen. For a lot of people, they do have beautiful experiences. But for me, I think there was an important part of my journey that was meant to be me and God over and over and over and over again. And having struggled with addiction in my past, particularly with like prescription medication, God was like, none of that is going to be the prescription you're going to take with you on your spiritual journey. And I noticed that as humans, there can be little escape routes in that. So for me, one of my challenges that I had overcome by the grace of God was around channeling. Lots of channeling, different extraterrestrials, light beings, different sources of energy. And there's nothing wrong with middlemen as long as you understand what their roles are, right? Yep. Just like channeling your divine counsel. Like there's benevolence in it as long as you understand that they are here to serve the aspect of the one creator. They are here to guide your mission, not to become kind of that like a dependency feeding loop. And that kind of goes to your part about the roller coaster that I feel. It's like, if it's not one thing, it's another thing. And if it's not another thing, it's another thing, constantly feeding. When am I ever going to feel validated? When am I ever going to fill that gaping hole? When am I ever going to get there? And in my personal experience, nothing has ever filled me like letting go of the noise and just, God, use me. Show me. Show me what the next step is, because I can't see, but I can feel this is right. God, use me as an instrument, and everything else will go. And now in my journey, when people ask me, will you channel publicly? I'm like, no, like I'm not here to be a puppet, and I've actually lost opportunities because people have been like, will you channel this extraterrestrial you work with? And I'm like, I'm not here to say, look what I can do, right? I've got 16 bars. Let me show you how high I can sing. Like, I've done that shit. And now it's like, I think for a lot of light workers, and maybe I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on this, those of us who maybe started to swing or maybe have swung over the last year or so, God was like, nope, I'm going to pull you back in and I'm going to strip you of everything. And I really want to prune you to understand that you will travel light. And you're not going to get it. And you might think your brand is suffering. You might think that your perception is suffering. You might think that your finances are suffering and all of that. And you're going to be the next wave that people who are in this fast food of spirituality, this consumption, this Hollywood energy inside of spirituality, people are going to need you because they're going to say, how are you so here?
Yeah.
How are you so solid? How are you so bright-eyed? Radiant heart. How did you get there? And I feel like people are, at least in my body of work, I'm starting to see more people saying, hey, listen, I tried all the things and I am so fucking lost. I did it all. I tried it all. And now I got issues and like more problems than one that I know what to do with. And I'm curious if you feel that in your journey, the walk you took of pulling back, was God pruning you maybe with like a collective of other light workers who were perhaps walking alongside you without even realizing that they were? Because I definitely was with you in that journey, just in my own way.
Yeah. I have a few sisters who I know too who were like, wow, I went through this big shift and da-da-da. Like we were very much connected. And I really feel like it reminds me of a poem I wrote recently. I don't think I remember it by heart, but basically I was speaking to, it's like, the more you understand, the more you know you don't know nothing.
Yeah.
You don't know anything. And I think that's a beautiful place to be, to feel as though like, what's going on? What is this? Like, that's when you get a chance to really figure out what is really real. The moment you feel into what is not, then you can see what is. And I think that pruning had to happen because where I'm going next, there were certain people even that I was around. Not that they were horrible people, because even that in itself, like I recently spent time with my family in Illinois, and there's just certain topics and certain things, certain traumas that people kind of sweep under the rug. They don't really speak about. And there were certain new things that I even found out about. And, to the average person, it can make you think differently, like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this person anymore. But instead of that, I had this immense compassion. I was like, we do the best what we can with what we have.
Yes.
And can I see around that to the soul
Yes.
of this individual, of these individuals?
Yes.
And so, there's a pruning that had to happen because where I'm going, there are certain people who just weren't supposed to go there as well. And I think oftentimes on your path that we're too afraid to lose, quote unquote, lose the friends, lose the house, lose the relationship, lose the things, lose the money. We're afraid of all of that. But if it's built on shaky ground, if it's built on belief that's not truth, if it's built on all these different things, then how stable is it? So yes, let me prune away all these things that need to go so that I can really stand in my divine mission and my divine purpose and be that beacon to show what it does look like. Because you go on things like TikTok, you'll see all these different, I'm happy you brought up channelers. You see these channelers and they're just like, they're just everywhere.
There is a big shift happening in planet Earth. If you were meant to see this, here's 111 222 333 444 555 666. Got it.
Let's just
Great.
be real,
Must
though.
be for me.
Let's be real. When you're tapped in, you're going to see the divine signs and everything. So even I will look at that and be like, okay, yeah. Because that's just how it happens when you're aligned. But then there are people who are new to this and they're just like hanging on to every single word, and not everyone who does it. And let's be real. Some of them are tapped in. Some of them do know. But then a lot of it is all fluff.
Yeah.
How will you know? How will you have that discernment between what is real, what is not? What is truth, what is not? And I think it takes that unplugging. It takes that disconnecting. It takes that silencing out the noise so you can get clear on who it is, who you're here to serve, what you're here to do, what your mission is, that you can really hear. Because I think sometimes people confuse. Yeah. They confuse what's the voice of your spirit team, and then what's the voice of your heart, your gut, your mind, and what's the voice of ego. Yeah. And they call it a divine download when sometimes it's not. Sometimes it can be a divine download. Sometimes it's not. So being able to really drown that all out, to get clear, to get empty, keep emptying yourself. Keep emptying yourself to where you don't even know who you are, because then you get to rebuild yourself to be who you were always meant to be.
Waking up can feel like your whole world is turned upside down and there's no one there to catch you. Whoa! And so you ask yourself, who am I? What's my purpose? What are my gifts? And years later, you're still asking yourself the same questions. Cue the Sovereign Healer, the only psychic development and energy healing sovereign development school that'll help you understand your unique abilities without leaving your meditation cushion. Let's get it.
I'm very thankful that I was the 2019 spring chicken that had my awakening.
Yeah.
I was a 2019er, and I was living on a cruise ship. And I was portraying classic Disney princesses on cruise ships. And I had my awakening around a relationship separation, and I started to meditate. And that was the beginning of my curiosity. It was the first thing that I wanted to explore. And I didn't have Wi-Fi. The limited Wi-Fi I had, I was downloading random guided meditations that took you into the forest to like lay in the grass. And I developed all of my clair psychic abilities on a ship by myself with no internet access and no one to talk about it with, because all my friends, they stopped at like, this universe is magic, like it didn't go further than what I started to have, which were psychic connections. The first most notable one was I had a really deep practice in between shows, actually. I would always meditate in between shows. It was like I was so excited to see what would happen because I was starting to feel something. And a voice came through and said, I'm your grandfather. I'm your spirit guide, and I've been with you your whole life. And then I smelt this like overwhelming scent of campfire. I thought, oh, that could be really dangerous. It'd be a really good thing. Like, I don't know what that was because, again, I had nothing. I had no awareness, but I could discern that it felt more than anything had ever been true in my life. And so I ran upstairs when I got Wi-Fi, and I called my mom. And I said, did I ever tell you I talked to Grandpa as a kid? And she said, oh yeah, you would run around all the time and say, Grandpa's here, Grandpa's here.
Aww.
And then I said, because I felt him always on one side of my body. And so I would say, did I ever like point to like the right side or talk about him and say he was somewhere? She goes, oh yeah, you'd always point to the right side of anybody who was standing and say, Grandpa's right there. And then I said, okay, final question. Campfire? And she started crying. And she said, that is the fondest memory I have of my father. He passed in his early 50s from cancer, very, very aggressive cancer. And they would go camping every year together, and it was her fondest memory with him. And then I got off the ship the day the world shut down, March 14th, 2020. And up until that point, we did like random temperature checks and thought it was kind of a joke. And then I got off the ship and was like, oh, people are actually like fighting over toilet paper, and like whatever's going on seems to be a real thing. But I remember what changed in me when I started to have access, too much access to information. I was in nothing, listening to random insight timer guided meditations, and developed my complete palette of psychic senses. And then tarot and astrology and this and that and this reader and this. Would you like a reading? It was like living in the desert and then going on the Las Vegas Strip right after, right? And being like, whoa, this was too much. And I saw how quickly that led me astray on my journey to different types of nefariousness that I encountered, how much I lost myself in being a channel for the divine, and then making money, and just like how it fed this never enough unless I fill. I did good, I did well. And I think more of us are going to come back to this. Actually, on my episode with Xavier Dagba, he said something to the effect of, we're trying to find a secure attachment with light. And that's probably the scariest thing, because we have attachment styles with darkness, like with our shadows, where we don't know how to find security in the light, in God.
Yeah.
And just, it is. I don't need it. I don't need anything else, anything more. And I trust fully, cellularly. My entire energetic system is on board with whatever this is meant to be. And I think that's been the biggest walk of my journey, from getting lost to getting found, and then breaking cycles so that I could find deeper and feel deeper. And it sounds very similarly in your own unique way. That's kind of been how you've gotten here on your journey as well.
Yeah. And gosh, there was just so much resonant in truth, and just I connected to a lot of what you were saying, even down to my grandfather passing away when he was 55 to cancer.
Wow.
And me having a deep connection with him. And he visited me. It was probably about a couple years right before I took that leap of faith. And he visited me and was like, hey, do you want to know why I used to always randomly give you $5 here, $10 here, just randomly give you money? And you'd always ask me, like, what is this for? And I would never respond. I'd just walk away. He's like, do you want to know why I did that? I was like, why? He was like, to show you that you are already worthy, just as you are, to receive whatever you desire, to receive money. You don't have to do anything to receive it. And I think sometimes we've gotten lost from that to thinking that we have to, post X amount of times, that we have to create X amount of things. And it's like, what happens when we really believe in that, when we really feel into that, not just saying it like an affirmation without any real emotion behind it, but what happens when we really feel that? Because then that's when we can tap into this level of prosperity that doesn't ask you to sacrifice yourself, that doesn't ask you to abandon who you are, because it's really easy to look like you're doing the thing, but you cannot fake character. You cannot fake embodiment. You cannot fake this real connection to source. And I think it's going to take people, like I said before, more people showing up in that light, showing up in that way, to then give others permission to do the same. And it's just, I feel like that is where we're going. And now that it's the forefront of, okay, we see people are recording, certain aspects of themselves. Maybe they're recording the ritual. Maybe they're, putting on the garments to make it seem like, it's time for the work, which sometimes it is. Sometimes that's what drew me into my guru. If it weren't, it's not that us showing up and, having the organic ads or doing the things, it's not that it's bad, because I found my guru through an ad. And there was a moment in my life where I was going through postpartum. This was actually in 2012. 2012, I was going through a postpartum after just having my daughter, postpartum depression, and really feeling like I lost myself. Before that, I had dabbled with like hot yoga back in like 2006 or something like that, but I didn't really know what it meant like to really connect. And he popped up on ironically enough, it was a video that my partner was showing me that I was so disinterested in. I did not even want to watch it. And then he like walked off, and there was that guru's face right there. And I was like, something about him. Went down a rabbit hole, read this book with this single mother who was going through the exact scenario of what I was going through. And before I know it, he was going to be in Atlanta, and that's where I was living. And so 2013, I go there, and boom, the rest was history. It really shifted my life. That's when my I would say my deep awakening began. So it's not that the ads are bad or that showing up is bad. It's just that, can we bring more of those into the light who do have an integrity, who do really have a desire to see others win?
Yes.
See, I just keep getting excited by what you're saying. I feel like I venture off from your question.
Did I even ask a question?
I
don't even know. I'm like, what? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I am 100%. It's like, I feel like we're like harmonizing, and I hope that anybody who's listening can just follow the tune of like what resonance feels like when two souls come together, and like Dusah says this, and then I say this, and then, God says this, and next thing you know, it's like this, like it's
just flow.
Yeah, we're just getting each other. And it's, as I was hearing you speak and you mentioned about character, actually in 2 instances today, my makeup artist was talking to me about, how do you hire people? Like, what is your process? And I said something to the effect of like, I hire them based on my intuition first, but then character never lies. So watch consistency of behavior, because what's more important to me is if the person is not actually in integrity with whatever their initial outburst is of whatever energy they're trying to show me, 2 things: God's teaching me a lesson, or I'll see a character flaw that is not something I want to stand for in integrity in my company, and then that'll be that. There'll be consistency of coherence. Everybody is human, nobody is perfect,
Right.
but something will come forward where I'll go, oh, that's not for me. And then before we began, Arya, my editor, and I were chatting, and we were talking about this opportunity that was lining up, and he said something like, don't forget about us when you get big. And I looked at him and I said, why would I ever do that? I said, that's not the kind of woman I am.
Yeah.
I'm not the kind of person who's looking for the biggest person in the room, and now that I'm bigger than you, see you later. I will never forget good people.
Same.
Ever. I don't give a flying fuck who you are. If you are a good person, I will feel it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm looking for in my life. And I think that's what I'm really, really looking for inside of the spiritual space. The people that I ever consider retreating with. I've never been to a retreat. And I'm very mindful about why I'm not, mainly because of psychic protection, but also because it's got to be it has got to be the right space for me. Same thing with medicine. It's like, one, I've never been called, but if I am, got to be a good person. Among all the skills and talents they have about discernment, protection, elders, ancestors, all of that needs to be in place. Mm-hmm. And being a good person means absolutely nothing about your net worth, your network. No. Means nothing about your following, nothing. Some of the people I love to hire the most, and actually only some of my close people in my world know this, but I'm very moved by hiring international people. Mm-hmm. And of all different cultures. If you look at my entire team, I've got a widespread cultural team on my side, because when I was 14 years old, I moved away to a private boarding arts school in America. Not super international as far as one could go in terms of culture shock, but I am motivated by helping other people who have started in a new place with very little, but a dream.
I love that.
I'm very motivated by that. If you look at my team, like I look for that in the people that I hire. If I can motivate the person who came here to be an entrepreneur from India, and I can be that person that can steward abundance that God gave me from the service of my heart, from clean to clean, very, very few things move me as deeply as something like that. Very, very few. And I'd love to see who we are when we get rid of all the bullshit that we think we need to be in order to seem spiritual. Because I think we'll see a lot more good people. Yes. Like that original intention that I just want to help people, but without all the savior and the martyr and the this and the that, just the simple, if I could change one person's life with this advice that changed mine, I've made it. Yes. Like, let's come back to that original intention. Yeah. And I think we'll see, like I'm seeing like the chrysalis, like the butterfly, like I think we'll just see more of that purity of people's hearts come back.
We will. It's
once
the tipping
more
of the scales, the balancing that has to happen, the reckoning that has to happen. And sometimes it gets worse before that happens, but it definitely will. And while you were speaking, all I kept hearing is that Kendrick Lamar line where he says, celebrity does not mean integrity.
Oof.
It does not mean that. And, you know, these divine experiences, it does not matter, like, how many followers you have, how many likes you have, how much money you're making, how much cash received you receive that month. Mm-hmm. It does not matter. Is your heart open enough to receive it? Are you a good person underneath it all, underneath the masks, underneath it all? Are you a genuine good person? And I think we will see more of a rise to that. It's just inevitable. And I feel like as we're seeing more of the charade being presented, what's going to happen next is people are going to be invited to do the real work, that real inner work, because, you know, they say they want the light, but to get to the light, you have to go through the dark. Yep. And it's in the dark where the light shines, you know? So you have to go in that space and not be afraid of that, that inner work, that inner alchemy. That's the wealth. That's the thing that's going to bring you into alignment with, you know, things happening beyond your wildest dreams. But to get there, and I feel like the whole reason why we even see sort of the Hollywood approach to spirituality is because people are afraid to really look at themselves. Yes. They're afraid to really go deep. So while we see that right now being presented, we're also going to see, or at least I desire and hope that we will see more people doing the work, more people going within, more people realizing, wow, I don't have to do this in order to do this. It reminds me of when years ago I was a waitress. And I saw this mother who was with their child. This was before, like, it's become even more prevalent as it is today. But the child was ready to eat, and the mother said, not right now. I have to take a photo first. And she didn't say it nicely at all. And the child's waiting very patiently, so sweet. And she's taking her time. She took the photo, she stopped, and she's like still, I guess, now writing her caption and things like that. And the little boy is still sitting there very patient, and he's like, can I eat now? It's like, no, not yet. And I was like, wow, that hurts me so much, because then that it's going to become a post that says, I'm out at brunch with my son, having an amazing time, and I'm watching this kid suffer. Can we stop that and start back? Because it's not that we shouldn't document experiences, but that could have very well have been an easy photo, like boop, and then put that down, and I'll get to the caption later, I'll get to the content later. I'm going to be present with my child right here. But instead, people are seeing like, oh, wow, I can make money by, you got single mothers or mothers in relationships now who are like, okay, I can make money from exploiting my kids. You're seeing people being like, oh, wow, spirituality is trending. Now I can make money by doing this. We see that. But I feel like once we can disconnect from that and to say, the machine does not run anything, the algorithm is not in control, we will see that it becomes, I don't even know if I want to say that it's going to be an essence to where this will naturally happen to where more heart-centered beings will become, the thing that we see more of, viral, whatever you want us to call it, that'll start to be more prevalent. But I think that the way to go now, as we were having the information base, as you said that you had all this knowledge coming to you, that it almost felt like you were lost by all the different avenues. But can we be devoted to that thing that really connects us to our purpose? Can we find, it doesn't even have to be one thing necessarily, but can you find things that are all in alignment with that makes you feel like you're on that path? But then, next that's coming up is like, can we disconnect? Can we unplug? Can we not be afraid of what we lose by not showing up? Because if more humans were like, I don't want to do this, what happens to the machine? Or if we, really used social media the way they say that it was supposed to be to connect us all, but it's creating division. It's not connecting us. Can we find the way to make it to where social media can really connect us? Or get rid of it altogether? I'm not saying, we need to do that. All I'm saying is that can we use it in the way that it was intended to be? And can we not let the machine run us? Because nowadays you'll post, and then what does it say? Hey, post again to receive this benefit. Post again to get this reward. So people are escaping one rat race to jump into another. But can we disconnect from that and really unplug so that we can really hear the true answers and the true calling of our soul and our spirit?
So then, if you could define what spirituality would be, if it wasn't this kind of Hollywood energy, what would spirituality then be in the highest manifestation of the industry?
Well, as I said before, it's a reflection of what's going around. So I don't think just because we see this sort of disconnected presentation of it, like what you're going to see both extremes. That's just how life works. We'll see, without darkness, there is no light. Without sadness, there is no joy. All these things go hand in hand. So it's not like, I feel like we are seeing the highest form of it. We are seeing, because just the same way as that we see, things that are less than desirable, the same way we see people doing XYZ that's harmful, the same way we're seeing wars, the same way we're seeing all of that. We're going to see the highest of high of that. We're seeing it play out. We're seeing it sort of catalyze into this space where more people are awakening to truths and things. And so I feel like the more that we can spend time connecting back to the land, revering these ancient medicines and these ancient lands as what they are, the more we can continue guiding people back home to their own power, their own nature, the more that we can see our artistry. We need more artists coming online. The more we can see artists embracing that as a spiritual path, because they are one and the same. The more that we can break the cycle of fearing being persecuted for sharing our truth. The more that we can show up, I feel like it looks like a lot more people speaking their truth, not being afraid to say the hard thing, a lot more people doing the work, a lot more people coming together, like how you were embracing different cultures. Like we need more of that. There is no separation. We create that. And I think the more that we say no to the misaligned opportunities, to the ones who you can tell when someone just wants to sort of piggyback off your energy. They want to be vampirical. You can tell that. The more you say no to that, no matter how great it may sound. So the more we say no to these sort of things, the more we say no to the fast food, the more we say no to fast fashion, the more we say no to false prophets, the more we say no to the division, then the more we can see the shift and things shifting in the way that I feel it was intended.
I also wonder if the more we say no, the more it almost forces those that are extremely fragmented or lost on their unique paths to start to go, wait, well, if everybody's saying no, then maybe there's something within me that I need to acknowledge, right? Like there's also a gift in, I'm sure that in this situation with the first kind of book opportunity, that the karma that's playing out in that path is probably starting to show itself in its own unique
is.
way, right? So it's like enough no's, right? Enough detours, enough drains of whatever it is that is God's way of trying to say, hey, detour, reroute, go back, turn around, try again.
Realignment.
Yeah, exactly. That the gift of us saying no is that it will hopefully help that person, that the starvation of what I believe is a very dark system that has been kind of feeding off of people and feeding off of this planet. And we can now restore organic time back. We can restore the organic template, I believe, God's original intention for Earth, which I don't think is without duality.
No.
But I think it's with the ability to use our free will to choose God each and every single day. The ability to fight for the light that lives within all of us, that unique spark, that creative artist, like you said, that snowflake that maybe has the same name, like we're all humans, but no two snowflakes are the same for a good reason.
Yeah.
And I think us being able to say, you know what, no, I'm done with all of this noise. What have I got to lose? Because I feel like shit now anyway, if I'm getting real with myself. All of this chasing and look at me and it's a never-ending feeding loop, and I never end up feeling better. So why don't I try this? Because at this point, I've got nothing to lose and hopefully everything to gain. I think the gift is that it will help the realignment for those that maybe hope and hope and hope that this thing is going to be the heart, but all they have to do is let go and come back.
Yeah.
So I think it's like a double-edged win by starving this old system, if you will, by staying in our light and bringing energy in before it is offered out, doing our absolute best to stay in clean hands, clean hands, clean hands. Then that allows the opportunity for others to rework themselves and realign on their paths as well too, which I think is the biggest blessing, is the ripple that our secure connection with light then allows other people to notice their anxious attachment with the darkness, right? And then their avoidance to their light.
Yeah.
And then that allows them to swing back to the center of balance where they can become secure with their light.
Yeah, and can we embrace it all?
Yeah.
I think we overcomplicate things too much, especially healing.
Yeah.
I feel like, because even with the attachment styles too, right? We can be too attached and then things don't, I feel like how we are with money, like if we are in relationships, if we're too attached in relationship, we'll be too attached with the money and then it'll play out in these different ways. So like that attachment is key, like to be able to disconnect, to not be so attached. That's very important. And also it's like, can we embody all these different aspects? Can we embrace the light and the dark? Can we not just say, oh, it's all love and light? Because it's not.
No.
But then also, can we not be afraid of the dark? Can we learn to go into this space of quieting everything else around, of silencing it all, to really connect with that? Because I feel like there's a big misconception when people say that you need to kill past versions of yourself. And I don't agree with that. Because why? Why do that? Because then you're walking around fragmented.
Yeah.
Instead of killing a past version of yourself, can you bring that past version of yourself into view, into light? Ask them, what do they need to feel whole again? What do you need so that you can stop acting out in a way that's not working in our favor? Okay, oh, it's a teenage version of me who felt like they didn't have a voice. Okay, I'm giving you room to speak now so that you don't have to act out in my everyday life in this way. But I'm not going to kill that version of me. I'm going to embrace that version of me. So can we learn to embrace the light with the dark? Can we learn to embrace the sadness as well as we can embrace the joy? But like, we're not supposed to be stuck in that, Because like I said, the pendulum swipe. You can go too far into the depth, to the dark, to where now it's like egoic. Now it's I'm the chosen one. Now it's whatever it may be. Or too far into the light where now you're judging, you're condemning, you're pointing fingers at others. You're saying this way is the only way and all other ways are demonic or devil, whatever it may be. But it's our own individual journey in the end.
Yeah.
It's our own individual path that can we all just walk each other home? That's what I want to see. Can we walk each other home?
Wow. Which is, I believe, what our original intention for coming here on earth was to help each other walk each other home to the heart, to God, to being a human and experiencing everything we possibly can in this crazy, wicked, wild time that we just all happen to be here, no matter what, experiencing together in our own individual way. So I think you're everything. I think you're extraordinary. I think you're deep. I think you're multi-layered. I'm so excited I get to take you to my favorite spot for dinner because I just want to pick your brain, your heart, what lights you up. I just want more.
Food is always my language.
Good. It's not fast food.
Yay!
It is not fast food. It happens to be one of our absolute favorite spaces. And so I'm just grateful to have more time with you. But I would love, however you feel called, to complete this space. Our topic was, is spirituality turning Hollywood? We can go that direction. You feel called. If anything is on your heart, final closing, prayers, invitations, or if something else is resting on your heart.
I want to share just a brief little thing that happened. I live in Mexico now, Mexico. I live in Mexico now. And there was a moment where they have the best mangoes, I swear. They have the best mangoes in the world. And I love mango. And this became a ritual just only because it felt so good. But I would take that mango, that would be the first thing I'd eat, and I'd go to my window and I'd overlook, and I'd look at the trees, I look at the sky, I look at everything around me, and I would eat that mango so slowly, taking my time, honoring it, thanking it, feeling all the subtle nuances of the flavor, and then also looking at the trees and looking at the sky and doing the same thing. And I did it from this perspective of, I'm going to appreciate this for all of those who I've lost, for all of those who came before me, who can no longer enjoy this. But I'm going to enjoy this. So I guess I share that as my stomach is like, yeah, I'm hungry now. And as we were talking about food, I share that to piggyback back on that point of healing doesn't have to be complicated, and connecting to source doesn't have to be complicated either. Because in that moment, I literally felt an out-of-body experience, and I just felt tears of bliss, overwhelming tears. And that became my daily ritual of what I'd been doing. But if there's anything that I'd like to leave with anyone who listens to this is to not be afraid to unplug, to connect back to nature, to follow your own inner knowing, even if it goes against the grain, to not be afraid to leap and trust and know that that net will more than appear. It's going to appear, and like this little trampoline thing, it's going to bounce you. You're going to go, whoo! And things are going to work out beyond what you can fathom, no matter what it looks like right now. So yes, connect back to nature, connect back to your truth, and have the audacity to show up in that. Yeah.
Well, so it is.
So it is.
So it is.
So let it be.
Yes. Thank you, Dusah Wiseman, for being on the Spiritual Debate podcast. I'm so glad. And as you know, I'm so honored to be able to be sitting in not my queen's chair, allowing you to use my queen's chair for this episode, because everything is working over there. And that's fine. I'm like swallowed in this thing, but for you, I would. For you, I would. And so thank you. I appreciate you. And I guess we'll just leave this question now with our listeners, for those of you who feel called to receive today's medicine.
And thank you for doing the work that you're doing. Thank you for creating such a beautiful platform. I adore both you and Hayden. I'm so grateful to have just met you, to be in this space. And thank you for being an example of what it looks like to also be embodied.
I received that. My little toes are like, my little moon in Leo's like, oh, thank you. Like, big part of my work has been about like letting it in. So I'm letting it in. And,
you got that. You're a star.
My little toes.
You're a star. You're a queen. You're a goddess. You're all of that. You are amazing. You are warrior. You are divine.
Let's go.
All of that. You are all the teams. So thank you. Thank you.
Oh my God. Well, you guys heard it first. I'm all of those things. And honestly, so are you. So we'll leave you with this. Is spirituality Hollywood? And I'll see you all again very soon. Take care.